It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. That phrase came from the first paragraph of the first chapter of Tale of Two Cities, the famous novel by Charles Dickens. Now, we're going to talk about that book at some other time. That is not the subject matter for today's episode, but it's a great way to get the ideas flowing. The statement, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," showcases the complexity of life. One of the ways you'll hear that expressed in American English is we take the good with the bad. In a more casual way, someone might say, well, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. But they're all talking about the same thing. The complexity of life, some things are good and bad, and then it's all mixed together. We don't get to choose only the good stuff. So where did this come from? When I was deciding what to talk about on today's episode, I had recently watched a video in Spanish for Comprehensible Input, and our beloved presenter explained how she didn't really like to travel, and then expounded on that. Now, I'm not going to duplicate her presentation, no, but it gave me an idea on something we could talk about in this episode. I set the stage with that quote about good and bad being an admixture we call life. So I do like to travel, no question about it. I like to visit interesting places. I like to meet interesting people. I like to sample wonderful, interesting food. What's not to like about travel? The travel can be a little hard on us, and I think we all will agree on that. I am fortunate here because we are only a stone's throw from San Francisco International Airport. There's an expression for you. It's a relatively short distance, a 1-hour drive. So it's very easy for us to get access to international travel at a hub, and we don't need to travel for hours to a regional airport and then take various flights to get to a hub. So we are fortunate. We all know the problems with travel. You have to show up early. You have to deal with security. You may need to deal with passport and visa issues. Then there's a long wait for the flight, followed by finding your seat. Once in your seat, you may find yourself in economy class, or coach as we call it. And most of us feel like we are packed into these small seats like sardines in a can. Now, I'm not railing against this travel. No. Now, when I say railing, that's a phrase we can actually talk about. If you rail against something or you rail at something, you're issuing an outspoken complaint. And that is not my point here. I realize that with travel, we take the good with the bad. Now, you can mitigate how crowded you feel on the flight by upgrading yourself to business class or first class, but for most of us, that makes the travel rather expensive, perhaps prohibitively expensive. I've traveled first class and business class in the past, and I must admit it was luxurious, but for most trips I buy an economy ticket. Flights can be quite long, and that puts a lot of stress on us. We may have difficulties with the behavior of the other passengers. We might not find the food on the airplane very attractive, but we get through it. And then we arrive at our destination. The trouble with arriving at our destination is you're there, but you're not actually there. You're not at your ultimate destination. You're in an airport. So you have to get off the airplane, collect your luggage. You may have to deal with immigration issues and passport control, that sort of thing. And now you've got your luggage and you're there. Well, but not really. You're still in the airport. So you have to deal with ground transportation. Now, I don't know about you. If I have traveled on a flight that was 10 hours long and I arrive in my destination, I want things to get real easy real quick. I don't want a lot of difficulties navigating ground transportation. And I don't want that ground transportation travel to be very lengthy. There are some places in the world that you can go and ground transportation is very slick, very easy. I'll give you a couple of examples. If you arrive at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, there is a train from the airport to the central train station that takes 15 minutes. It's super easy. That could put you within easy walking distance or a short tram ride to your hotel destination. Because of this, I look for opportunities to fly into Schiphol. I like that airport. Heathrow has an express train that takes you to Paddington Station. It's a 15-minute ride, and that's relatively easy. A little bit of online research and one can find these ways of making our travel easier at the destination airport. There are a couple of gems that we have discovered that take the comfort to a whole new level for us. One of these is in Milan, Italy. We look for opportunities to fly into Milan. The Malpensa airport is modern and easy to navigate. It is designed for business travelers, and I have no criticism of that airport. But instead of taking the express train from Malpensa to downtown Milan, when we arrive, we're tired. And so what we tend to do is collect our luggage and then call the local hotel, which is only a few feet outside the perimeter of the airport. We typically stay at the first hotel. Now, this isn't an advertisement for the first hotel. I'm just telling you a story. We like to stay at the first hotel. This hotel is very well set up for international travelers, and once you call them, they send a van to pick you up and take you to the hotel, which is right outside the airport. So within a few minutes, you are at your hotel. Check-in is easy, and a few minutes later, you're in your room. When I arrive in Milan, I've been traveling for a long time. I'm tired, and what do I want? Well, I'd like a shower, I'd like a meal, I'd like a good night's sleep, and I want things to be easy. And that's what they deliver. Now, once you have recovered from your travel, and it's your first full day in Italy, upon arising, there's breakfast available at the hotel, and then fortified with a good breakfast and a good night's sleep, it's pretty easy to navigate local transportation. We usually get the driver to take us back to the airport so that we can get on the express train to go to the downtown central train station or sometimes pick up a rental car. That's one of our strategies to mitigate the stresses on us created as a byproduct of international travel. Now, in the United States, there are similar opportunities, and I'll give you an example of that. My wife and I like to go to the East Coast and find ourselves frequently flying into Atlanta. Atlanta is a gigantic international airport, and one could have the same difficulties organizing ground travel having just arrived in Atlanta. Most of the time that we have gone to the Atlanta International Airport, it has been on the way to the John C. Campbell Folk School. Now, I'm going to talk about the Folk School in another video. This is a pilgrimage that we have done 6 or 7 times. We have not been to the folk school since the pandemic, but I do look forward to going back there. It's a magical experience, and I promise I will make a video about the folk school. When we arrive in Atlanta, typically we want the same things. We want easy travel, we want to get to our hotel room, we want a shower, a good night's sleep, and a meal. And that's readily available at the Atlanta International Airport. What we do upon arrival is gather our luggage and get on the tram, but instead of going to the rental car exit, we get off at the hotel stop and we go to one of the hotels right there on the campus of the International Airport. We always have a reservation made in advance. We arrive, quickly check in, and then we are comfortably in our room ready for a shower, a meal, and a good night's sleep. I like to plan ahead so that it is more about the positive experiences from the travel as opposed to the stresses and inconveniences that we all associate with travel. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.